Welcome to the College of Lore. My name is Anthony.
My name is Josh.
We're bards and we talk about things, and this is a College of Lore.
My charisma is 0.
It certainly feels that way at sometimes, but it's like, it's endearing, you know? That's what I tell myself anyway.
Sure. Like a dumb puppy.
Like a dumb puppy. Those guys have a charisma of 20. And Pathfinder would be like a charisma of 30. So today I thought we would talk about some of the organizational tips and tools that people use to run D&D games. Everyone's different. Whatever behind your Dungeon Master screen is unique, but everybody has one, and everybody has something. Even if the screen is their forehead and all the information is in their brain. So,
wow.
Yeah, I'm not that organized. All my information is not in my brain. It is at certain points, and then it flies away like a little bird. So I have had to learn and struggle with some organizational tips and tricks, which I thought was just for, like, I don't know, people who want to organize their house, but it's not. Your house is your D&D, and it should be in order.
D&D is my house.
Is it a well-built house? Is it made out of stone?
Man, the integrity of the house is constantly being stress tested.
Okay.
But we're up here, you know?
It was not built by a valid contractor.
It's like when you build a house and it's cool, and then you realize you need a lot more rooms, but the initial house isn't built for a lot of rooms. So the structural integrity of the original house, it's too late to go back and fix it because you got a lot more rooms.
But in one of those rooms is a library, and inside that library is a book on how to play D&D, and that's what we're talking about today.
Yeah, that's a great point. Let's get back into... Segues are hard.
They are. But if you stuck with us this long, surely you'll stick with us a little bit further as we talk about some resource guides. Now, right off the bat, if you are wanting to run a game and you've never run one before, or you want to run a game and you don't really know what the resources are out there, no matter what system you're playing, there's a good group of online tools that I like to use. So one of those tools, the very first tool that I ever learned about in D&D and Pathfinder, which is actually available for a ton of other systems, is Roll20. Now, they've had some problems in the past, and we will talk about that, but one of the things that I like about it is it's an integrated system where you can put your character sheet, maps, tokens, and publicly roll for everyone to see. That being said, there are a lot of other tools out there that have better histories behind them. And I really don't know the controversies behind Roll20. I didn't even know that there were until recently. So, Josh, you had a Roll20 account. You paid money every month for their services. They have dynamic lighting and all sorts of things with a pro account. What pushed you away from Roll20?
Well, first I want to say that Roll20 as a resource is pretty good. The compendiums, they were all free and open source for the most part. I don't know how D&D runs because we usually only ran Pathfinder games on there, but you can still get the spells and the details and stuff like that on the site. I think that the site's limits are the fact that it's online. So there's not really a giant usage to get Roll20 account if you're not playing the game on Roll20. Like, why would a DM have Roll20 information if he's playing an in-person game? So it definitely depends. But if you're playing online, having everything in one place is generally good. I had a lot of characters built on Roll20. There's a lot of automation and stuff like that. Roll20 is good, but like the house metaphor, Roll20 is a bit clanky in its roots, and it also has been the same for the past, 5 years. Roll20's dynamic light system and stuff like that is really good, but when you add a bunch of stuff together, it is browser sourced, so it tends to bog down the site, get really slow. Sometimes the site crashes, sometimes the music doesn't play for everyone. It's a bit wonky. It could use some polishing that I feel like isn't being provided, especially for the amount of money I pay. I'm expecting their funds to be used to make the site better. But it's still a good source for online play. It's just not the best source for anything other than that.
Could be a lot better, right?
Yeah, and I also say that it's a good source for online play because right now there's not a lot of good sources for online play. So your selections are kind of limited in the first place.
Right. So we're definitely having a lot of online games now. It is a site that everyone can get together and roll on. Privately, people can use D&D Beyond to create their characters and roll attacks and things like that, but it's kind of clanky. With it's not integrated. You know, you can't have a whole campaign where everyone is rolling together at this current moment, and see that. I think they're going there. I think D&D Beyond is moving towards an integrated Roll20 hack because they kind of already are with the rolling and stuff. They're a little bit more integrated with they have all the D&D content, whereas Roll20 is kind of like more broad and shallow, where D&D is very deep but narrow in terms of what they have to offer. So you can create characters in there, it has compendiums and things. One of the pitfalls of D&D Beyond is anything that's not in the player's handbook, you have to pay for. If you want to play a race that no one's ever heard of before, official source material, but not in the player's handbook, not in the official SRD, you're going to have problems. You're going to have to buy either individual things, wait for a sale, and buy like Xanathar's guide. That's the other thing. You can't just like buy what you want. It's super expensive. It's like $3 for a new race. So if one of your characters is playing a new race, you have to go out and buy that. It's kind of weird to not have these integrated sources like Pathfinder. When we played Pathfinder, everything was free and open source. I loved that about the game. You could find any monster, you could find any creature and just grab it, and you'd know everything about it.
Yeah, that's definitely what made Pathfinder balance out its mathness and complication. It's open source. With D&D Beyond, it's really cool, but like you said, it can be very expensive as it adds up. So just kind of, maybe play with a rich friend because you can just steal their account, sort of like Netflix.
Yeah.
So that's my recommendation.
I
do that.
They do caution against account sharing, but they also have no way to tell. So, I'm not saying...
Don't do it, kids. We don't recommend it, but do
legally, I should say don't do it. Unscrupulous sorts of people could do it, is what I'm saying.
We're not saying we support it, but we are saying it is possible to do.
We're exposing a flaw in their system, is all we're doing. Okay? They need to have some sort of thing. They should be paying us right now for this free advertisement.
That's true, yeah.
Is what it is.
They should listen to this podcast and put it on their website.
That would be awesome. Wow. We would have to take down this episode, though. It'd be like episode 10, and then episode 12 is like, what happened to episode 11? It's gone.
Too powerful. What are some other sources, Tony, that we can use for D&D?
One of the other sources that I would caution people against, which is the first thing that pops up on Google, is the D&D wiki. You will find a lot of like temporary, there's no way to know if anything's official. So if you want to play like an official game and someone comes up to you with this class that they say is official that I found on the D&D wiki, look into it a bit. Double check that they know what they're talking about and that the D&D wiki is up to date and that the class isn't completely busted. This one guy I know played a fairy that was totally unofficial content. He was like an artificer or something as well, which was totally unofficial content. And for some reason, this little, 2-foot tall pixie with wings was destroying a giant dragon in the middle of a battle. And that just really took me out of the element when I was playing. So, yeah, the D&D wiki, for history things, it's great. I get a lot of my sources from that, for this podcast, from the D&D wiki, and then translate it into audio for you guys. But that's only one of my sources. I have to check multiple sources in order to make sure what I'm saying is accurate. So the same thing with your character. Like if you want to pick up a character or pick up some information or organize something, the D&D wiki, just be careful. With any wiki, really, because it's open source. Anyone can edit it.
To add to that, though, while it may be unbalanced, there are a lot of cool homebrews on the wiki. So if you need inspiration as a DM, I go there a lot.
What could I find there? What would be something that I could find on the D&D wiki as a DM?
I mean, like you said, there's a lot of unofficial content, so it's like a collaborative mind of a bunch of people and their weird ideas. The ideas might not necessarily be balanced, but you can come up with cool feats and weapons and items from these classes. You can pull little tits and tads that aren't necessarily a full-on class, or a full-on class if you want to go crazy. I don't know your game. So like you can get a lot of inspiration from other people's ideas. I use the wiki a lot for that sort of thing. Nothing specifically, but for ideas and stuff.
Right. So just fact check everything. Make sure that either that you're putting something in there that you really want to have, or that you've play tested a little bit on the side to make sure that what.
Or just send it.
Yeah, just send it. Who cares?
Yeah, you're the DM. You were in control.
The magic suddenly ran out of your sword, and it no longer works. It's just a regular sword now.
Now it's cursed.
It's cursed also, because I made a mistake.
Yeah, it is also
giving
cursed.
it to you.
Yep.
Yeah. I think it is your fault if you put a broken item in there, and then if you dial it back, you better have a very gentle way to dial it back so that the player character doesn't hate you.
Yeah, it is your fault, 100%. But you can fix it, or just work with your players. Like, hey, I messed up.
Be honest with your player. What are you talking about?
You're right. My bad. Give them everything and then take away it all. You are God. Which you will.
On a power trip.
They are your puppets. Isn't that why we DM?
Well, I do it because I want to tell a story with people. I think
Tony.
All right. Okay. That was
my gentle, sweet cricket apprentice of a little boy man. I don't know where I was going with that.
my sweet summer child.
Yes.
Yeah, I think that.
What are some online calculators that we could use, Tony, for some resources for these lovely people?
That's a great point. There are a ton of online calculators and lists out there. If you want to go flip through the player's handbook and find the list of general adventuring item to describe what your players see when they go into a shop, you are going to be flipping. It's going to look awkward, but these are questions players ask. People ask, what's the name of this person? Does this person have a name? And you're going to have to, make up a name. If you are a good DM and you are really organized, you will have a book of names that you've used. We've talked about this before, I think. Josh, you said that you had a binder full of names, and you would put notes next to each name that you used, and when you used it. This way, you wouldn't reuse the same name over and over again, and you'd also find ways to remember that person's voice the next time that they came up.
That's partially true. I don't have a binder. I have an online thing, like a list of names. In theory, that is what I try to do, but sometimes in the moment I forget to write notes next to the name that I used, and sometimes I do mess up. But the idea is there. This is what I would like to do, yes. That's what you should do.
Right. I mean, that's
but I don't always do it.
You're a puppet master controlling 1,000 strings. You're answering each player's question. You're writing a story. You're telling people about the world all at the same time. It can get a little messy. So if, players, give your dungeon master a break, okay? They're creating an entire universe. With creating an entire universe, I'm sure math is involved. And there are a lot of online calculators that you can use to figure out the challenge rating of an encounter. You can use an online calculator to figure out how much things are worth, how much weight your standard items are. Player characters will ask you questions like, how much water can we bring into the desert with 3 horses? And I'm sure there's an online calculator out there for that. There are so many. I would have, if I was really good, I'd have them all bookmarked, but like Josh said, sometimes things get busy and you just gotta Google. If you can, a true dungeon master, like the best dungeon master out there, can rattle on, and say nothing to his players while talking for about 10 minutes, just while he's Google searching with his thumbs under the table, pulling up a calculator trying to figure out the exact answer to whatever they said. That is where I want to be. That's where I'm going towards.
I said one day you'll get there.
One day.
I believe in you.
One day we'll all get there. We're all gonna make it, my dude.
We're all gonna be the best DMs.
That'd be so cool. You think in heaven everyone is the best DM, but then you can't find anyone to play in your game because everyone's been
Would that make Matt Mercer Jesus?
I think it does. You were talking about having a notebook, but not actually having a notebook, right? With laptops
Yes.
and technology going the way that they are, most people have at one point seen someone with a laptop. I think that's a general enough statement to make.
I use rocks and chisels, to be honest, but yeah, sometimes.
Is that a mini? No, it's my computer.
It's a Kinder, and it's just a pile of wood.
Oh man. But yeah, you use your computer, use technology. Don't write everything down. You're gonna be flipping through everything. If you take everything out of an adventure that, let's say you're working a pre-made adventure, let's say you write everything out of that adventure into a notebook for quick searching and whatever, and then you're flipping through the notebook. You're doing the same thing that you were doing with the book in your notebook. You're not increasing anything. There's no process improvement. There's no cost savings to that. What you have to do, in my opinion, is put everything into one location. All your hyperlinks to everything else, back it up. Obviously, if you're putting everything in one location, and like the opening crawl to the story, people's backstories. You either need to have like a folder on a USB, or you need to have like one spot in your computer that has everything. Now, I recently started using OneNote for everything because I could make like as many tabs as I wanted to, and then as many pages inside those tabs. It's kind of weird to explain it without a visual representation, but at our high level on Patreon, we do have a lot of videos that we talk about different things, and I'll definitely go ahead and take this new adventure that I'm running, which is a pre-made game, and do a video on my note-taking and resource management. In this video, or in this audio, we're just going to be talking about like the things that we use, the different types of tools that we use. So I use OneNote. Josh, do you like OneNote?
I fucking love OneNote, dude. OneNote's great. Yeah, like you said, there's the tab function, there's hyperlinks. It's like all the power of a Word doc, but also the formatting power of whatever is good at formatting.
InDesign, Adobe InDesign is really good at formatting. If you're rich.
Never used InDesign. I should use it because I have it because I'm an artist.
Okay.
But I've never felt the need to switch anyway. Not to mention, OneNote is really cool because you can link your players to books. So if you're really dedicated and you make your own source books, you can just link them the OneNote and it'll send them the whole book instead of you having to deal with all this mishmash. And it's free. It comes with your Windows.
It comes with Microsoft.
Unless you're a Mac user.
I'm sorry, Mac users.
That would be an issue.
So after doing some research, it looks like Mac doesn't have a unique note-taking app. However, there's a couple that you could use. I found this after one quick Google search. There's ClickUp, Devon Think, Omni Outliner Pro, Scrivener, Growly Notes, Outline, Curio, Mac Journal, Soho Notes, Together, which is now called Keep It, Eagle Filer, Yojimbo, Magical Pad, Alternote, Evernote, and Google Keep. Some things to consider when you're using an alternative for OneNote is what type of file it can handle. Can it import video, audio, notes, and PDF? Can it save data in the original format and then export it to whatever you're using? Can it import data from whatever notepad taking app you're currently using? You might want to see how reliable it is at saving data, as some note-taking apps on Mac can be temperamental when it comes to saving data. Make sure you can rely on the one that you're using, especially if you're dealing with important files and data. Does the developer charge for updates? You definitely want to check out any hidden costs before you use something. And then you want to make sure that it syncs with iOS. Many of these OneNote alternatives at least sync with iPad and some iPhones, but some do not. And that's what Mac uses for, which is similar to OneNote. Universal one that we talked about before is InDesign, Adobe. And again, one of the cool things about OneNote is in Microsoft Word, let's say you wrote everything in a 10,000 page Word document. You'd have to then scroll through. You're having the same problem as flipping the pages. With the tab feature, you can quickly jump to a general selection, and then it has multiple pages in OneNote that you can find. Also, in Word, everyone's had this experience. You're typing in Word, you get a document, you find a little picture that will illustrate your point perfectly. You put it in, and all the text goes off to the left. Why does it go off to the left? I don't know. But you have to spend 45 minutes.
You have to delete the whole document because it's worthless.
It's worthless. You got to start all over, all this missed time. Use OneNote. You won't have any problems with graphics. You can put text. It's like text boxes everywhere. So you just have these floating text boxes that aren't like limited to the way that Word is. So, and you can even do something in Word and copy and paste it into your OneNote to save it. Definitely back it up. Definitely put it online. Definitely, have multiple copies of it so that you don't lose it because that's your one resource. But when I'm running a game, I want to have OneNote on my side. If you don't have that, you can use another free program, Google Docs. It's okay. If you can organize your Google Docs well enough, it's free. There's a bunch of other things you can put in there. Excel books. Again, being able to link everything to your players is awesome. You can do that really easily with Google Docs as well. Any other resources that are on this like note-taking thread that you use?
I mean, technically speaking, you could use Roll20 if you wanted to keep all your stuff in one program and you were playing online. Another program that I used to use was Evernote. It's sort of like OneNote. I found that OneNote is better, more intuitive, looks prettier, but Evernote basically does all the same things, but it's more minimalistic in its design.
It's true.
And it's free.
Okay.
But it's also a separate program. It doesn't come with your Microsoft. But maybe it's compatible with Mac, so Mac users.
Hey, get at us.
Maybe you could use that.
What was that one? It was kind of like a world building tool that you were using. Larry talked to us about it. Shout out to Larry. This was it's like World Anvil, I think.
World Anvil. Actually, yeah, you're right. I'm surprised I didn't.
Tell me about
this.
that.
This is World Anvil is really good, especially the paid version. It's a bit pricey, but there is a free edition. It's good for people who work visually, map making specifically. You can put your map on there as an image. You can tag points of interest, POIs. You can have descriptors. You can have a separate page. If you wanted your world to be a website, this is basically what World Anvil is. I do think that World Anvil can be a bit heavy in the fact that it has so many text boxes for so many different things that most DMs would not touch on. Like if you have a little hamlet, it's going to ask you what are some political leaders, the POIs, the culture, the background, the religion, the this, that. And at some point, doing that for every single city might be a bit much, but you have the option to do that or not do that. It's a giant rabbit hole. But yeah, I recommend World Anvil. World Anvil is really cool, especially if you are a visualist. If you like to show your players pictures, it's very picture oriented.
That's true. You can count your words, take notes, embed video, track tasks, and control access to different parts as well, which is very good for dungeon masters, to have a separate layer that they can see and then a layer that their players can see.
Yeah, I will say the one thing that World Anvil doesn't excel on that OneNote does excel on is off the cuff DM notes. I always prefer my DM notes to be organized sort of like a Word document, so it's a lot more compressed. You have like the entire session on one page. It just makes life easier. Yeah. And then you have that hyperlink off into like more descriptions. World Anvil is a bit more spread out because it bounces around based off of location, since like I said, it's very map oriented. If you like that, it's great. But there's also no rule that says you can't use both.
Right.
So you should probably use both.
Well, how much is that paid version versus like what's the difference between the free and paid version just as a consumer?
I believe the paid version, oh man, it was a while since I've had it. I bought it for a year.
So it's a yearly subscription.
It was like $70 for a full year. It's subscription, okay. So it's not one-time purchase, unfortunately. But the free version is really good too. I would definitely try the free version. The paid version is not necessary. It has extra bells and whistles if you want to make it look extra pretty, but you can operate on the free version just as well.
Awesome. There are some other like one-time purchase organizational things. Recently, you stopped using Roll20 and started using, what was it called? Foundry?
Foundry. VTT, Virtual Tabletop. Yeah, it's sort of like Roll20. I haven't finagled with it too much, but I've been playing around with it. It looks really pretty. It's got a little weather feature. It's got all the bells and whistles. It's compatible with D&D Beyond. So if you roll in D&D, D&D Beyond, it'll pop up in your Foundry. I don't want to give a review on it because I haven't really tried it. But visually, I think it looks smooth. It looks pretty. It looks intuitive. It looks like what Roll20 should be doing if they were moving in any direction. But we'll see. I don't want to say that it's good or bad yet. I don't know.
Right. You can definitely check it out on their website. Briefly, what I saw from the trailer that they have is they have day and night settings, more dynamic lighting than the dynamic lighting features in Roll20. So, as the day goes on, you can use one map for day and night. A friend of mine, Mattlebaps, on Patreon had to deliver several different types of maps using the same basic structure, and then redraw it in the daytime, redraw it in the nighttime, redraw it at high noon, and then deliver those three different things. So instead of fumbling with three different maps based on the time of day, you just kind of have one system. It's offline, but there's an online component to it as well, right? So it's a program on your computer that you buy for the one-time purchase, and then
It is server based, so you can buy a private server to run your game on, or you can run it through your own PC and then have your players connect to your PC. So it is a bit heavy on your PC if you want to run it for free, which is most likely what people will do. There's no reason to run a private server unless you need it up all the time or you have like a community game going. But the plus side about it, it is a one-time purchase. Unlike Roll20, which you're paying subscription, this is like a flat $50. Then you're good for the full thing and all its updates.
that's true. And again, for me, for what I'm currently doing, because I am just about to start running a game, is the best option for organization is to have someone do it for you. So in Roll20, I'm running Storm King's Thunder coming up. I found out in Roll20 they already had all of the maps, all of the NPCs, all of the stories, the blurbs that you read when characters walk into town. It's all there. So I'm definitely going to be using that. It was a one-time purchase of $24.99, I think, for the adventure module, which is 4 years old at this point. Would I recommend buying the book as well? Yes, just because I'm a weird collector who likes the book, but you could get away with probably just purchasing it on Roll20 and going off that. It would be interesting to see if Wizards of the Coast linked up with any of these other sites to give competition, because that's the big thing is these people don't have the backing or the longevity that Roll20 has, which is why everyone goes to it. If you look up virtual tabletop, Roll20 is one of the first options on Google, so that's why everyone tends to use it. But there's definitely other things out there. Pen and paper when you're on the go, jot down a quick note, transfer it to OneNote, get all those notes into one place. We're not trying to stifle anyone's creativity with some different ideas, but I've had problems where I've written a whole page of information down and then I lose that piece of paper. So, however you want to be creative to get that out into the world, do that, and then find a way to bring it back in a more organized chaos. Your players will really appreciate that. And then as a player, organize yourself too. You're going to get handouts from your DM. You're going to get a bunch of information. Your character is going to change. I played a game one time with this kid, and he had the same character sheet from when we started the game to when we finished the game. He would erase on the page and then write in the new number when he leveled up. The piece of paper was like thrown in a backpack. It was covered in Cheeto dust. My man Irving, if you're out there, I love you.
Way to throw him under the bus.
I'll bleep it out. But I know you know who I'm talking about.
To further boost OneNote, by the way, it is mobile too.
Oh yeah.
So if you have, if you want to jot down some notes on the go, just put it in your phone. That's usually what I do. I don't usually use OneNote for that. I have like a memo thing that I yell into at like 2 a.m. when I have an idea and I can't sleep. But eventually it hits OneNote if it's any good. So you can have like a separate OneNote tab that's just labeled 2 a.m. ideas, and then you throw it in there when you're in your drunken stupor, when you're like, yeah, man, what have I made this really totally original sexy elf bartender that no one's ever thought of before.
What's your name?
Let me get my list of names that I've got planned here, because I'm an excellent DM.
Well, the
name is Candy.
That's a good name. An elf named Candy. I want to write a song about an elf named Candy. That'd be the title as well. She's so sweet. That Candy. I think this is a good place as any to end this giant train wreck. So yeah, thanks for attending. Thanks for paying attention. Thanks for taking notes, and take those notes and transfer them into your website of choice, or whatever you use, your binder, your D&D binder. Thanks once again. Do you hear the bell? Is that the bell?
Could be.
It could.
Insert bell sound effect here.
The bell is a real member of this podcast, and you'll do well to remember that.
Bell collects all the donations. We don't get anything.
Yeah, that's true. Thanks everyone for attending. Have a great weekend. Study well and have fun.